Alan, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon on this interview with Olivia. So before I give give the word to Olivia, and I've been in many rooms with her, and she is fantastic in the engagement with the artist, and I'm really looking forward to following the talk with you. But before that, I'd like to thank you for joining us for this amazing event. We are really truly privileged to have you in a group of 35 international digital artists. Also, I'd like to thank you for your invitation to seeing your studio in Quarry Bay. I can see you are such a pioneer, in the art world, and also digital art. I was duly impressed about your iPhone series, especially also about the waving entry cloth in the Kyoto house, as well as also the design in logos and other graphic work that you have done. Inside of me, I still have hope that on the fourth artwork you maybe can consider bringing in the logo for Coca-Cola in China. I think that is an amazing design, and how beautiful that would be in it. But I hope that would be possible. Again, I like to end my introduction with thanking you, and we hope that this interview will be the first, and that we soon have more engagement, and also can see you in the live opening event in Hong Kong during the launch on December 9th. So actually with that, I like to give the word back to Olivia, and I'm going to listen with lots of interest to this interview. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome, Frank. So Olivia, I think we can start anytime.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Frank, for such an eloquent introduction. Alan, you're such a prolific artist, designer, creative force in so many different ways. And now with NFTs, this is such an exciting new string to your already very prolific bow. So can you give for everyone who'll be looking at this video with you and eager to find out more about your work and how it's translating into the digital space, can you give us a little introduction to that, please?
Well, it actually came as a surprise when Frank and Lavina came to me a couple of weeks ago about the opportunity to get involved as part of the NFT phenomenon in the world. Of course, I'm excited, and I've been being approached by different parties about the opportunity. And to be frank, it was a bit frustrating at the beginning because it's a complete, totally new kind of medium to explore art from a different perspective to the world audience. And then I get really excited as people coming along, and especially when Frank approached me about having seen some of my work in the past 50 years of my career, probably in the advertising design industry. They all believe that it's easy for Alan Chen's creativity to go in the NFT program. Of course, I'm more than happy to hear that. I mean, in that perspective, I'm actually like a kindergarten student. I'm just the beginning for me, even though I have all this experience in creativity in all sort of arena, from advertising campaign, TV commercial, product design, packaging, to interior and art program producers. All these things that has been surrounding me for the last 50 years. And so all of a sudden, somebody called Frank came to me, "Hey, Alan, this is an opportunity for you to talk to a bigger audience with whatever you already have." So that's a great piece of news for me. And I didn't realize that all the work that I've done in the past 20 years recent that actually captured such attention of what Frank is talking about, the digital world. For example, my iPhone series was taken since almost 10 years ago, unintentionally as a travel memory that I captured with my iPhone, and then suddenly I turned into a digital world, into huge wall mirror, 60 meter by 3 meter, which was an installation I did at the Polar Gallery in Ginza, Tokyo, about 4 years ago. And that came as a surprise, not for me, not for the audience, also for myself, because I started to realize I could move in the digital world. unexpectedly. And further than that, even longer than that was the iPhone series also turned into like something really classical and modern. I mean, what Frank was talking about, there's a piece of fabric we hang outside most of the Kyoto houses to stop the sun and the wind going to houses and the dust, whatever, which was created 2,000 years ago, which is called Lorraine. And it's been moving sort of sexily under the wind wherever I travel in Kyoto. And I've been attached by this kind of movement. And one day I came up with the ideas of using all my iPhone images, collage them in the huge piece of Lorraine with all the images that I took off my iPhone and turned it into a digital piece of art. And I think Frank was freaked out when he saw it. Wow, what is happening? And of course, I was surprised that he was so astonished by a work that I created some years ago that he believed it could go into the digital world easily to talk to a new mass audience.
That's so interesting, Alan. I mean, I think your work, you know, it crosses boundaries. As you've said, you know, there's no, there can be ancient references, and you frequently do reference, you know, ancient Chinese motifs, and you rethink them, and you modernize them, and you make them completely new again and relevant to fresh audiences. So I think that's one of your gifts, if I may say, one of your many gifts. You know, and now it seems like the NFT space is another form of you channeling your incredible creativity. I can't see that that's going to be a problem for you.
I don't think it's a problem. It's, I mean, I'm a very meticulous person about detailing. I mean, I think digital is something that I admire, but something that I don't understand, because when I create this Lorraine kind of movement of this fabric with all the images taken by iPhone, I have the idea, but I have no idea on earth who can write this program for me. So we went through a kind of a worldwide research, and then finally, what happened? We found a company in Beijing who can did it for us, which was about 6 years ago, and it's quite magical when the result came in front of me. And of course, with this technology today, 6 years later, I'm sure if I ride on that kind of technology, I can create something more powerful, more penetrating in a way of getting them in a more dimensional way. Maybe it could go beyond my thinking. So I think it's an exciting moment where I've been tapped into this world now that opened up a new channel of creativity for an artist, for a designer who are so used to this sort of basic computer setup. But now it's a new world, it's a new set of game opening in front of me that I could play around, I can enjoy and share more.
No, that's incredible. Alan, you are from Hong Kong. You're Hong Kong born and raised, and you know, you've got that I guess that, you know, spirit of Hong Kong running through you, which is, you know, the indomitable Hong Kong creativity and some really unique qualities that come through in your work. Do you think that, you know, Hong Kong motifs, which you've played around with in your previous works historically, do you think that they're going to be woven into your digital work? Can you give us a little bit of a teaser?
Sure. I think it's a very good question you brought it up, because basically most of my iPhone images were not taken up Hong Kong. But again, this is an excellent opportunity for me to come back and see my root and see my hometown again, because Hong Kong has always been so photogenic since the beginning of the colonial days 100 years ago, when you can see so many Hollywood movies take place in the 50s, 60s as a backdrop to let the foreign reader to understand what it is all about when China was not open, and when Japan still had a huge language barrier, when Singapore was about to develop. Hong Kong stand at the forefront of all these images of Hong Kong. Images are so photogenic. Hong Kong is we have the most, probably one of the most charming, sexy harbor, Victoria Harbour in front of us, and all the juxtaposition of all the building, all the clutterness, what you call, actually is part of the personality of Hong Kong. I remember one of the very famous movie director who shot a movie in Hong Kong. I forgot his name, but he quoted Hong Kong is a place full of layers. So when you're on in the harbor, when you're on the Star Ferry, you're looking back to the Hong Kong island, you see the different layers. The layers that what make Hong Kong interesting. And if you look back to all the visual images that have been captured by foreigners or local, a lot of images were based on that layer to create that kind of story. And I think Hong Kong has that kind of uniqueness that can never be replaceable. So I think that's then a very good opportunity that you might remind me I should go after this conversation with my iPhone to start taking them before it's too late. You know?
Thank you, Alan. I mean, I think that there's a really interesting parallel there actually with the metaphor of layers and translating that into NFTs, which the interesting thing about art NFTs, and you know, I think you're now the 12th artist that I've had the pleasure of speaking to for the MetaArt Club for these interviews. You know, what comes across is that it's not just about creating an art piece, it's also about layering it with animation, sometimes, not always, animation, sometimes with music. So, you know, there's so much that can be imbued into every art NFT that it's a real opportunity for extreme creativity.
I think you've got the point. I think that NFT to a lot of people is about digitization. I think it's not that superficial point of view that I'm looking at. I think with the digitalization of NFT, I think we can create deeper story, better story, more diversified story because of the technology. I think that's the beauty of it. That's the area where I'm going to learn from it.
I think you're very humble to say that you're going to learn from it, Alan. I think it's going to be the other way around. So can I just ask you, you know, where do you draw from this incredible well of creativity? You know, what sparks your creative process as an artist?
I have no formal training or study in art or design. So, and I from day one when I started working in advertising agency back in 1970 when I was 20 years old, I told myself the only way to learn is to live. So how to live is you have to share. So I think most of the first 10 years of my career path in agency in the 70s was live and work with all these gaijin foreigners who came abroad from mostly from UK, New Zealand, Australia, and a bit from New York because they were fascinated by the East, and Hong Kong was the East, the symbol of the East at that time. So living and working with them, I started to learn and see Hong Kong from a different perspective. I mean, I have this piece of glass, but I probably have two pieces of the glass, and one from my gaijin foreigner Guilo, so who taught me how to have a better cup of wine and hang out. That was no language phone at that time, but still. So I've been living in two worlds at the same time simultaneously, and that's the beauty of it. And that's how Alan Jones was groomed and taught to see Hong Kong from two parts of the world.
Yeah, that's really fascinating, and I think you've really eloquently woven, you know, your experiences as a designer into your creative process, and it kind of informs everything that you do, whether it's designing, whether it's creating art, or whether it's, you know, making a beautiful piece of furniture. Alan, you know, what is, if I can even ask, do you ever have kind of creative block, obstacles in your creative process, or is it a really seamless process where you have an idea? I know you collaborate prolifically with other artists and designers, and you have done throughout your career, but, you know, do you ever, you know, do you encounter those blocks? And if you do, how do you overcome them?
I think for the last 15 minutes of our conversation, you can realize I actually, how do I say, I think faster than I can speak. You know what I mean? I don't know how to describe. I mean, my mind triggers so fast with ideas, and very seldom I got stuck with my idea. I mean, it's a matter of as a profession for the last 50 years in the communication business. I think it's a matter of how well can this idea be developed. Meaning, if you put a score sheet of 100 marks, and my idea, no matter when and how, it always reaches at least 50% on the score sheet because of my experience. It will never fail. But how well that idea can elevate and mature to become an award-winning piece, it depends on a lot of conditions. the client's condition, the budget condition, the time condition. I mean, they understand how well the client understands what I'm doing. So I'm not stuck. I mean, I can never get stuck with an idea. It's a matter of how well I can control it to the percentage of quality that I wanted. Can I reach 100 marks? Can I reach 90 marks? How well? I think that's what I always measure our performance, and not about being stuck with ideas. I never stuck with ideas.
Would you say that we are living in the midst of a digital renaissance?
Well, of course, definitely, that's for sure. I mean, this unavoidable, because it's like when electricity was invented. I mean, you need air conditioning, you need light. So I will not be skeptical about this digital world that comes in such a powerful dimension that affecting every one of us in the creative world. We have to accept it, but we have to take whatever that's right for us in terms of how well it could help to elevate our idea, how well it could penetrate into an idea to a much profound manner. I think that's the way I have to first analyze what the digitalization provide as a condition before I can jump in with my idea or solution. I think that's the way to look at it. I won't be skeptical, I won't be scared, but I need to know what else technology-wise can support me before I perform. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. I mean, your work is fearlessly, beautiful, diverse, and your use of different media is something that really has defined your prolific career. But I just wanted to ask you, Alan, are there any other artists in the digital space, in the art NFT space, that you've been kind of keeping either a close or a distant eye on, and kind of looking at their work and how it relates to you?
Well, frankly speaking, I haven't gone deep into understand what is happening in the NFT kind of digital world. But I think, to me, I think it's better to stay away from it for a while, to be an outsider before you get into it. I think that's the way I see it, because I need to understand what's happening, what people are doing. Of course, I heard about this incredible sales over the world. I mean, that I know, but that is not really my cup of tea, because I think if I want to go into digital world, I want to come up with a solution which is different or completely different. That's the way I look at it. I think I'm in a situation wait and watch. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe I can add here. I think, Alan, what you say now, I think that's a fantastic way to approach it. But just what is astounding is the growth of the space. I just read that 3 months ago, OpenSea hit $1 billion sales. Today, they announced that 3 months later, they're hitting the $10 billion sales. So can you imagine the magnitude of the growth? But I still think your approach of seeing it and participating also with the launch is fantastic, and it's the right way to do. So just as an input from my side.
Thank you. I look forward to that phenomenon to happen.
Alan, as part of the world that you inhabit as an artist, what are the innovations that, digital aside and digital language aside, what are the innovations that have affected you the most profoundly within your career?
I think it's the opportunities is something that to see some outcome which is out of my expectation, because it did, like, for example, the Lorraine, the fabric that flow around outside the houses in Kyoto. I mean, I have an idea, but I was pushing so hard to try to get it done, and then finally, I got it, and it was amazing. Even looking back from up to today, 4 or 5 years later, that piece of fabric that move around in the air is still magical. Whoever to look at it, of course, the Japanese went crazy and said, "Wow, this is 2,000 years now using the most modern technology to enhance our culture in such a emotional manner to them. To them, it's very emotional to look at a piece of fabric. It's like when you go to a Kyoto garden, look at the Zen garden, they think the stones talk to you, to the Japanese.
Yeah.
So that kind of emotion. So I don't know. I think I just can't wait. I mean, I have a portfolio, but I can't wait to explore my portfolio deeper, to mobilize them and get into the NFT world.
Yeah, that's incredible. And in your throughout your career, Alan, you've created such a body of work, but I just wanted to ask you, if you could name some notable works, such as, obviously you've named the iPhone project. Are there any others that you really kind of felt made a real impact for you personally and professionally?
Well, I mean, not just digital work, but any work. Is that what you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, frankly speaking, we have won over 600 international awards in my career. So obviously there are a lot of signature projects, not just 1, 2, or 10. But if you want to call, I think, of course, the iPhone is my signature project, which is my art project. But I've done so many commercial projects. For example, I did a trunk design for Louis Vuitton in Paris a few years back, based on the Chinese character of T. It's a T trunk. So when you open it up, the compartment of the trunk is also was divided by the Chinese character T. I mean, Chinese brushstroke like so that divide different compartment of the T trunk. It's like a bespoke message. Like when you open it up, you see the compartment beautifully, and then when I start to expand to the compartment is actually component the brushstroke of Chinese character T. Then you'll be amazed. So that could be one of my signature projects, as you can see, that really go around the world. The other would be the Chinese Coca-Cola typography, which we created 14 years ago in China, which completely transformed what they used to have, which is just a basic Chinese calligraphy. What I did was creating a Chinese font, which is synchronizing with the English Roman letter in terms of angle, the detail, the curve line. So it carried the DNA from 100 years old American history to China, but turning into a Chinese character. And that makes such a big introduction for me to go into China market in the last 20 years for my commercial project. Everybody introduced me to China, said, well, this is the Alan Cheng who designed the Chinese Coca-Cola typography. And that's it. You don't need to mention anything, even up to today, We have worked on many other big notable accounts nationwide, but people still use Coca-Cola as a benchmark to sell Alan Cheng into the market. Hong Kong, well, there are far too many things, from fast food restaurant to the Hong Kong International Airport, to one of the most notable discotheque, which is called Canton Disco. We created branding in the early 80s. Now, it's part of my archive collection in Museum Plus in Kowloon now. So you will go to the opening in a few days, you see the display of my Canton Disco from logo, collectible, social stay, manual, everything in there.
Oh, amazing.
Of course, one of my notable projects in Hong Kong is in the 80s when I worked in the entertainment business for some of the most notable Canton pop stars singing, from Anita Mui to Leslie Cheung, you name it, every one of them. So I did all the record cover, I did the styling. So from a Hong Kong perspective, everybody knows about it. I can carry on and on and on. I mean, I did a project in Milan for Alessi. Alessi is a well-known company who make high quality everyday lifestyle product. I did a tea strainer, which is the silhouette of a bird. The bird actually many holes. So when you put it in a teacup, so the tea leaves sort of filter into the bird. But the bird is actually resting on the Chinese bird cage where we hold them. So when you pull the bird out to start using the tea strainer, the bird start to sing. It's singing from the bird cage. When you put it back, it stops. So I think people really talk about it. I mean, that is one of our signature product. Many, many more. How you want me to continue?
I'd be delighted if you could go on and elaborating on these incredible projects all day. But yeah, Alan, thank you for that. I think it just showcases to everyone who's going to be looking at this video, the diversity of your career and your creative rigorousness. I
even have my own label of perfume called Chan, Signature Air. Chan is a phonetical sound of meditation of Zen in Chinese. So I created it because when I drink tea a lot, I don't drink coffee. So tea is my everyday drink. So I always want to create a perfume that based on the fragrance of tea, Asian tea. So finally, I found this guy who is one of the top 10 perfumer in the world, who's based in Paris, who create perfume for Chanel, Hermes, Celine, you name it. So we have an opportunity, we met, and then he curated 5 different fragrances with under French lady, and now it's in the market, which is under the brand of Chan. So a perfume based on Asian tea.
Amazing. Yeah, and everything that you're describing for us, Alan, harks back to your design philosophy, which is Oriental passion, Western harmony.
Right.
Can you articulate that a little bit more for us, how you came up with that? Or is this just your natural way of being as an artist?
No, it's the story behind it. Everything, every message I deliver, there's a deep meaning behind it. I mean, Oriental passion, Western harmony, because I'm from Hong Kong. I was born, raised, and educated in Hong Kong. I'm Chinese, Hong Kong. But I've been brought up under the anti-British system, exposed to the Western world. And I created this slogan, whatever, or create design style, not because I want to be different. It's just, I believe good design comes from the soul and the heart of a person. And that's most powerful. I always call it unpretentious creative vitamin, which is what I have. So I realized that's the more powerful fundamental element that I can possess as a designer. So when I create, I always look back at the locality of history, being Asian, Chinese history, 5,000 years of Chinese history that we can borrow so much from. We can learn so much from the form, the silhouette, the use of material, the patina on the subject. It's all inspirational to me and one another as a kind of vitamin. So capitalizing all this 5,000 history, Asian history, I think there's endless resources of idea that I can penetrate all my projects. But how to execute them? Because we're living in the 21st century modern world. We need electricity, we need air conditioning, we need this to be able to Zoom. So I mean, these are technology. So we cannot explore Western technology. And the Western technology, when it combined to the Oriental fragrance, it could create a special harmony, a deliverable of creative solution, which is single ourselves, our company different from the rest of the others. And that's the formula I've been writing on for so many years.
Yeah,
and
that's
going to be very successful. Yeah.
I think it's so interesting the way that you explain that, Alan, and you know, I don't think it would be too far-fetched to say that, you know, the fact that you were chosen to interpret the Coca-Cola logo for China puts you in that very, very, very kind of hallowed territory of Andy Warhol. You know, do you see yourself as that kind of artist? I mean, you're more artist.
Well, because my portfolio is so diverse, sometimes people look at, as you said, they say, "Oh, you are probably Andy Warhol from the year," because I also did a lot of print work. I used a lot of pop icon kind of logo type to create my artwork, which was exhibited in Shanghai Museum many years ago. But at the same time, I do something really traditional, meaning really local, and really Hong Kong. So, I mean, I have many hats, as you can see. Maybe this is one way of describe for people that easily understand who I am from the Western perspective. But basically, I'm very sort of down to earth person. All my ideas were derived from the local culture and the Asian culture, and that makes us different. I think that's what I believe in.
Yeah.
Even the Coca-Cola, even the Chinese typography, but the script is American script. So combining American script with Chinese character, but also because the way you move, if you feel like this is like Chinese calligraphy. So in the abstract form, I think that why is it working in China?
I think you've really hit on something interesting there, Alan, and the movement of creating that character and the articulation of it. I think in a Western mindset, a font or a word is static, but Chinese brushstrokes and characters are not static. I mean, they're formed with many different components. So that it's such an interesting kind of juxtaposition with a Western brand name, but this intricate process of Chinese characters that you've readapted and reimagined.
The idea came into my mind actually in the split of a second. It took me less than a week to create it.
Really?
It took them a month to approve it back in America because it's a big decision. So that was a fun job. That was a quickie, and then that lasts maybe for the next 100 years, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of M+ and your exhibition there, you know, this is obviously going to be a large scale physical museum. We're building a museum in the metaverse for the MetaArt Club, which is called the Metaverse Museum, and it will be a very real space to showcase your work as well as the work of the other 35 artists in this collection. So, you know, how do you feel about that? That, you know, your work is going to coexist in this way and in physical spaces as it has done, but also in the metaverse.
Well, I think as I say, Empress is a physical space. I mean, you can sort of almost touch my artwork, but on a digital world where everything is, I would call it intangible. You cannot really reach for it, but you see it, but you don't see it. You see it, but you don't. You see it, but you don't touch it. It's a kind of emotion that I still a bit find frustrating, but maybe you have to get used to it, you know. Of course, I cannot wait to see how it's going to work because, but of course, it's also embarrassing for me among these 35 artists. I believe, Frank, I'm probably the oldest one on the list. So I don't know how. I mean, I didn't ask Frank. I mean, why do you come to a man who is already over 70? You know? I mean, digital has to be under 35, I believe, half my age, right? Am I right?
Alan, actually, I like to give you an answer on that, because the beauty of this new artistic world of NFTs and digital art is there are no boundaries. It's decentralized. We see Naila. She is a 13-year artist. She is an in-house resident from Time magazine. She sold $3.5 million art. And it's not about the amount of money, but it's actually, I mention this because of the interest that collectors have given her. So I just honestly feel that the beauty of this is there is no stigmatization. There is no stickers that being put on people's forehead, what should be correct or what should be the rules of the game. I think the beauty of this new art form is that that quality speaks, and it's besides maybe art used to be more on a smaller or local platform. Suddenly we see ourselves in the global space without boundaries. So to be honest, and I seen you mentioned your age, but still I see how vital and passionate how you are. So I think you're outdoing so many of your younger generation. So again, for me, age is absolutely not important in this new digital space we are. So I only see it as a huge gain for the other 34 artists to have you in their midst.
You're very kind. Thank you.
And on that note, Alan, you know, you have spent time, in your career, you've also spent significant amounts of time cultivating new young talent, and you know, we want to make this initiative. We want to make the MetaArt Club an initiative that isn't just about artists and collectors, but it's also about giving back to the community. Can you give us you know, an indication of how you have helped cultivate nascent artists and how you see the possibilities for that within the digital space?
Well, of course, this is new to me, but I have been supporting young artists for maybe last 15 years with my gallery. I have a small gallery in my office. I also have a huge gallery in Quarry Bay. We have been hosting maybe at least 20 different exhibitions in the last 10 years or so. At my cost, until the artwork are sold, then I take a small commission. to do that, it's not about, it's not a business right at the beginning, I know, but to do that because I really want to in touch with the world to understand what the young artists are thinking about, what do they need and what the world requires. And through that channel of exhibition or curation, then I was able to understand the demand of the world from different parties. I think with this, the NFT digital things, which has such a powerful penetration for multimedia, I think that probably will speed up the concept of my mind how to support young artists for this program. I have no clue how to cultivate, but I think this is probably another opportunity for me to pass on what I used to do onto a digital platform.
Brilliant. I mean, we will be working with the Sovereign Art Foundation as our charitable partner for the MetaArt Club, and you know, no doubt there'll be different offshoots of that beyond helping young people in the community and art therapy through art through the Sovereign Art Foundation. So their Sovereign Asia Art Prize, as you know, is also very prolific, and I'm sure there'll be avenues connecting MetaArt Club to the Sovereign Asia Art Prize as well. And on that note, I wanted to ask you, you have obviously a collector base that has been developed over decades that are now facing this interesting intersection between digital NFTs and the physical works as well. We're really excited to introduce you to a new collector base potentially who may not know as much about your work as your existing collector base. But how do you see that relationship between collector and you as the artist in this new world?
I think if we are going through like a blind date kind of situation, so which is exciting, because I think human beings are full of curiosity. And this kind of blind date situation for NFT digitalization, I think is exciting for every one of us who feel shy to send a call, to send a message to someone you like. But this is so open-minded. I think this NFT digital world, everyone can be part of it, and I can't wait to get into it. And that's this kind of emotion I have at the moment. I mean, frankly speaking, you're not the first who approached me on an NFT program, but you are the one who get me onto the boat and really get me excited.
Well, we're so lucky to have you, Alan, as part of the project. So that's very, very exciting to know. And I wanted to just close, if I may, on young artists in Hong Kong traditionally have had to work to a small format in the physical space because they don't necessarily have the studio space to kind of expand their practice. And I know that you've spent many years cultivating your beautiful studios and other spaces around the world as well. But do you think now that artists in the digital space can basically work and they can produce prolifically and they're not going to be constrained or restricted by the size of a wall, how do you think that that's going to affect artists in a place like Hong Kong, number one, and then number two, for collectors who may not be able to just hire warehouse space to house their collection, but may be restricted by their wall space again? All of these barriers are now being blown into smithereens within the digital art space. So how do you see that relationship?
Well, that is going to explode, I think, in a very powerful manner. As you can see, I mean, artists can start creating work in Arabica and Starbucks. They don't need any space anymore. Collectors, of course, I mean, maybe we need more wall for projection. That's all. So I mean, I can imagine one day. I mean, this is always a dream in my mind. Maybe it's confidential, but I can share with you guys. I mean, Hong Kong Harbor is a signature of Hong Kong. And
Yeah.
of course, every year, a few times a year, we have this horrible neon light going on, the Christmas and New Year, neon light on the wall outside of the building. I always imagine, what if the digital world can put all this wall space together on the harbor, both sides of the harbor, and create a digital art festival in Hong Kong to draw the international audience. Then we can dress up all the Star Ferry boat and the junk floating around in the harbor, and we have a digital art show in the harbor with the NFT program. I think that is what I want to do.
You've just given me goosebumps, Alan. I can really envision that.
Imagine that will become an international festival, digital on the harbor, Victoria Harbor, the Pearl of the Orient. Remember the Pearl of the Orient? There we are, you know. I mean, we have this digital NFT artwork performance in the harbor. This time of the year, November till December, before Christmas or right through the New Year, we have a digital show. The tourism come back, we entertain them on top of Empress.
Yeah, I think, Alan, that's an amazing, you know, idea. I personally felt from the beginning, and I started collecting NFT arts in mid-March, and I really felt from the beginning onwards that living in Hong Kong and seeing, you know, the creativities, the galleries, the auction houses, the fairs, the art fairs here, that digital art will have a very important role here for the city as such. And, you know, and I really see Hong Kong as one of the main capitals in NFT art world, in the NFT art world. So your suggestion is absolutely amazing. And I don't know, but for sure, you know, the people here in the art world and you know, in society and government. But I think this would be amazing and would be an amazing attraction for Hong Kong as a city. We have seen last week the New York digital art fairs and gatherings. You know, I think 10,000-20,000 people from all around the States traveled into New York. I really believe that Hong Kong can really better that and make it as a major art and touristic attraction. So your idea is unbelievable. And in case I can play any role to be next to you to advertise that idea, count me in, because I think it's superb.
I think the other fundamental DNA, I think whatever you do as a creator, I think it has not only a concept, the DNA has to go deep into the idea. And I think Hong Kong, the Pearl of the Orient, the harbor, and what we're talking about, Hong Kong is full of light. And what does light mean? Digital is about light. You have to see through everything through screen. For the iPhone or laptop, you need light, and light is about Hong Kong. And if you capture the light, which is part of Hong Kong harbor, and that we own proprietary, we own this concept. People can copy it, but they cannot copy our harbor. People can copy it, but they cannot copy.
Nobody can. Nobody can. Nobody. And you've seen the M+ Museum with this huge digital screen.
Yes, exactly. So,
imagine.
so NFT is about light. Is about light. You know. Art on
totally, Alan. Totally. I think it's an unbelievable idea, and I hope you can make it work, and a lot of people will gather around you to assist anywhere, you know, we can, because I think
it's difficult, but it's not difficult because we are talking maybe four top real estate developer. If they're willing to collaborate, they invest, we can make the Hong Kong harbor alive again.
Yeah, I'm so much with you.
And then we're going to turn the Hong Kong and NFT become another art basel in Hong Kong once a year. People flooding in for the best food of the weather, the Shanghai crab, and all in winter time. November, December is the art week of NFT in Hong Kong and on the harbor.
Yeah, I know that Hong Kong Land is already in some way or another going to reach out to us. I guess it's one of the four. But love to brainstorm further with you on that, Alan. And actually, on that note, you know, I'd like to thank you so much for this amazing talk. You are part of the of Art Hong Kong, and to have you in this lounge, which we believe will make a difference in the world, how NFT really connects to artists, You know, you mentioned, I think you mentioned before that, yes, we see a lot of collectibles around, but the future really is the skill and the creativity of top artists. And we really believe that, you know, the MetaArt Club can make a difference in here globally. And obviously we are extremely proud to have you in it and represent Hong Kong. So with that, I'll actually, if it's okay, I'd like to, you know, propose to end the conversation. As Olivia normally makes a certain time slot in the podcast and the videos. I really like to thank you again, Alan. It's a privilege to get to know you, and I'm sure we will meet again on many other occasions. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks for the opportunity, Zhang. Thank you, Olivia, for the time to bring out the inner soul of Alan Chen, the other side of what my mind, what I'm thinking about in the digital world. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Alan. It's been such a privilege speaking to you today.